We just hit 10,000 subscribers, and that is crazy. I genuinely can't believe we've gotten this far on the channel thus far, and I'm really looking forward to continue making silly little videos for you all. I'll talk more about 10,000 subs at the end of the video so I can properly go into detail about this incredible landmark. So, when I noticed that I was getting up there in subscribers, I thought that it would be nice to create a little 10,000 subscriber special where I just do a regular massive video as a bit of a thanks for all the support. I sent out a poll, and it looks like you guys wanted to see a 20-minute long video about King Julien of all people. Well, if that's what the people want, then that's what the people shall receive. Let's talk about the I like to move it monkey. So, I'ma just cut to the chase with this one. King Julien is one of my favorite characters in any piece of cinema. No, I'm actually not joking. Look me in the eye. Do I look like I'm joking? And I'm not just talking about the comedy and the funny Julien. There's in fact a lot of genuinely amazing stuff to be found within this character. The way that they unravel him throughout the entire Madagascar saga as time goes on is truly masterful. And look, okay, I'm convinced that there's still a lot of snollygoshers in the audience who think that this is still a joke. Ladies and lads, I'm not joking, okay? I'm not. King Julien, unlike many other quote-unquote funny characters in DreamWorks material, actually works because as we go on in the Madagascar saga and get more and more Julien content, we begin to pick up that the way he develops as a character is especially unique and interesting. He works, he effectively works because he's given such a perfect balance of comedy and zaniness along with actually deep, thought-provoking and heartfelt moments. Look, I just say we head straight into the video because otherwise I'll ramble on about random crap for the entire duration of the video, so let's just jump right in. Okay, so I think a quick little history lesson is in order before we actually get to discussing why the big man is so damn great. I know that you guys might not want me to drag it out even further, but some of this needs to be said to give a little bit more background on what went into making the character. So to put it simply, King Julien was never meant to be a big thing, nothing even close. Apparently, he was originally intended to be a minor character with only a couple of lines to be said, but then Sacha Baron Cohen came along and absolutely knocked the audition out of the park. He basically recorded 8 whole minutes of straight improvisation, and as a bonus, he did it all in an Indian accent. As even more backstory, Sacha Baron Cohen said in an interview with Jimmy Kimmel that he got the inspiration for the accent off a lawyer that he had who moved to Sri Lanka. That's pretty epic. In fact, the directors and producers of the movie loved his audition tape so much that they decided to go to lengths to actually adjust a good part of the story and ended up making him a much bigger character than before. Yet another reason why Sacha Baron Cohen is one of my favorite actors of all time. So there we have it, a bit more behind the scenes knowledge on the character, and now we head back in time to when I'm revisiting Madagascar. At the time, I don't think I remembered my first viewing of Madagascar, but luckily I do remember this viewing a lot better. So thinking that I'm going in blind because, well, I thought at the time that this was my first time watching it, I'm loving the movie. I'm vibing with all the characters, the story is really neat, the animation looks great. All round, this is coming up to be one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, I love it that much. But then, as they're arguing about how much it sucks to be on San Diego, and Alex wanting to murder all of Marty's clones, the scene is interrupted by Alex hearing music. They proceed to venture into the jungle where the tone has changed a little. It's now got a bit of mystery to it. They think that it might be humans or people making all the noise, but still, where actually are these characters and what is all the music about? Or better said, who is all the music about? Marty, Gloria, and Melman reach this little area where they're about to see what or who they were running after, while Alex isn't seeing anything at all because his eyes have been punctured by a spiky tree vine. There's this giant leaf thingy blocking their way, and as they pull it back, they notice not humans, but animals? Just a bunch of animals. The classroom be like when the teacher leaves for 2 minutes, and then the unimaginable happens. Suddenly, there's this one animal that has a crown on his head and who's singing this banger song. The questions are going crazy right now. Who is this dude? What is he doing? And then the music stops. A random lemur in the crowd shouts out in slight concern that this thing called the Fusa are attacking. Alex finally shows up and has no problem just suddenly becoming a Karen. All the lemurs are hidden away in nearby bushes, carefully watching everything that's happening between the Fusa and the zoo gang. Then a spider coincidentally crawls on Alex's back and he just screams, ultimately scaring the Fusa away. Then the even more unimaginable happens. The monkey dude who was just singing the funny song starts speaking. What a great surprise! I love the conversation here between Julien, Maurice and Mort. It's comedy gold. Blah blah blah. The funny monkey man drop kicks Mort out as a sacrifice and then he cries, but we're not here to talk about that. After being convinced very quickly that they are just a bunch of pansies, the funny monkey man introduces himself, and he does so in fashion.
Presenting your Royal Highness, our illustrious King Julien XIII, self-proclaimed Lord of the Lemurs, etc., etc. Hooray, everybody.
I honestly love this entire sequence, not just this one scene, but everything prior to it, right up until I like to move it. It's a really cozy setting, and I dig it. However, we didn't just get a few hilarious moments out of this massive sequence, we also got introduced to a very special character, Mort. Oh yeah, and also I guess King Julien, whatever. Across the rest of the first movie, we get so many unquestionably hilarious moments and lines from the big man. Not just that first great sequence and the incredibly iconic rendition of I Like to Move It, but the entire movie. His whole thing in the first movie is that after discovering that Alex is actually scarier than the Fusa, Julien puts together a plan to befriend Alex so that the Fusa can never actually get to them ever again. Julien has got a ton of really funny moments in this one. He's got a few great interactions with Maurice and a million gazillion great interactions with Mort. Just a big pile of solid laughs, and already I'm absolutely vibing with this guy. One of my favorite characters in any DreamWorks movie, period. Then we get to the second movie, which is where I feel like King Julien is both funnier and less funny. Like, I think the right word to use here is bonkers. What he does in the first movie feels incredibly tame by comparison, and it's all thanks to the epic writing he was given here. Unlike the first movie, which centered fully around Julien being funny, this one centered around Julien being crazy. Like, the crazy here is taken up to 12 on the scale. His wacky and off-the-hook personality is given even more to look at, and that's just neat. His entire story for the movie is that after the water supply runs out of water, he tells everyone that the only way to restore the watering hole to its former glory is by throwing someone into a volcano. I cannot stress enough how unnatural this is. Not much to say, I just love all the scenes with him in it. I love every line of dialogue that he speaks. Another great display of the character where we get to learn more and more about him. And then we have the third movie, which I will make sure to keep brief, okay? I don't like the subplot that he's given here where he's in a somewhat abusive relationship with a bear, but I still love his character, and the line delivery by Sacha Baron Cohen is top-notch. Even if we get nowhere near the amount of King Julien that we would have preferred, it's fine. And finally, well, almost finally, we have the Penguins TV show. I'm actually currently going through the show right now for the very first time, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through. So far, I like what they're doing with Julien. The voice acting by Danny Jacobs this time is very well done, and I just like how snappy he is with the line delivery. It's very good. But now, after all that is said and done, we finally get to the pinnacle of King Julien's character. The piece of media where I believe that the man himself was at his absolute peak. Let's talk about All Hail King Julien for a bit. So if you haven't seen All Hail King Julien, what the flippity jibbity are you doing? Go watch it right now. I have endlessly gone on and on and on and on about why this show is so great and incredible and excellent and fantastic and epic and stuff. I could go on about the music or the deconstructive messages or the subtle imperfections with the side characters and the society that the show creates. But instead, I'm gonna talk about King Julien. Shockingly enough, this guy is not only potentially the best character in this entire show, but he's also one of my favorite aspects of the show in general. I'm gonna go into a bit more depth with Julien here, so obviously spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. So it's pretty clear from the beginning of All Hail King Julien that this dude right here This man is meant to be portrayed as a jerk. Julien is depicted as one of those stereotypical upper-class businessmen who couldn't care less about what they consider to be minors, and they make it blatantly obvious from the get-go that this is what Julien is meant to be, and they do a phenomenal job at setting those selfish and entitled characteristics up in the early stages of the show. So many episodes in the first few seasons are literally about Julien's self-centered behavior to those who are below him. It's really interesting how they were able to take this beloved, stupid, crazy character from the films and morph him into a hilariously toxic character whilst still having us adore him and finding him hilarious. Like, I cannot emphasize enough how clear they make it to us as the audience that Julien is a really messed up dude. Just the way that he interacts with the rest of his kingdom, and even his own friends and family figures such as Maurice, Clover, and Mort. On an average day, you'll find him treating them like poppy squats. Just utter garbage with absolutely no remorse for how they feel. So I think I know what you're thinking at this point. This guy's pretty unlikable, and even if he's still a comedic writer and all that, why do you love him so much? Well, Julien's toxicity towards others causes him to act extremely rash at times, yes, and it makes him very questionable a lot of the time with decisions he makes in doing so. But you can still see little glimpses of humanity within him, or should I say, lemurity in him. God, anthropomorphic animals make my job so difficult. Season 1, 2, and 3 go in depth about him to the perfect degree. They give us what we need, but we still get the feeling that there's more to Julien than just arrogant, careless, early 20s politician. There is more to him. And then, King Julien goes thematically even further than before. He slowly begins to realize that there's more to him than just, well, himself. He begins to discover empathy and what it should mean to be a leader. They take their time in establishing that Julien is as reckless as ever. He's beginning to understand these things and is even trying to make a change in his character. Then, in the season where Julien and a few others get exiled, he puts this idea into action by going to lengths to sacrificing himself for the greater good of his kingdom. There's one plot beat in this season where Julien and Maurice fall down this giant endless hole during a gladiatorial match, and Maurice actually sacrifices himself for Julien so that he may live. It's one of the most emotional things I've ever seen in animation, and Julien's face after the fall is just so depressing. You can tell here how shocked he is that Maurice put Julien's life ahead of his own. During this scene, I'm just in tears. The brotherhood that unravels between Julien and Maurice is so powerful across the entire show, and seeing it all, in a word, disappear, it's just so bitter and sad. Julien's entire person is in shock, and shortly after, he accidentally dies himself and goes to Frankwella, which is the lemur version of heaven as depicted in the show. After learning that Maurice actually survived the fall, he's so happy and demands to be put on trial where it will be decided whether or not Julien is actually worthy of having a second chance on Earth. You see, the entirety of this show has been built up to this one moment. Julien's purity, his empathy, and his ability to put others before himself is examined here. A couple of seasons ago, the Sky Gods wouldn't have seen a valid reason to keep him on Madagascar, sure, but Julien has had time to reconsider his actions and opinions towards others, and is really trying to make a difference in himself. And then, he actually says that if him dying meant that Maurice or anyone else's life was spared, he would do it all again. And this is where Julien's character as a whole thematically peaks. This is when it is proven that Julien isn't just a selfish little brat. He is more than that. That's why the Sky Gods gave him another chance on Earth. That's why the kingdom put their faith in him in the end, and they chose him as being the one true king of Madagascar to lead them in getting the kingdom back. All Hail King Julien is able to develop on Julien's character to an insane degree, and they are able to do so in such a phenomenal way. They show us that even when you've got someone who comes across as a pretty toxic person, there's still even just an ounce of humanity or lemurity within them, and that's what King Julien is about as a character. Julien is a perfect examination of growing up. At the start of the show, he's introduced as an irresponsible, brain-dead kid who's out partying all the time, only for him to get swung into the massive position of being king of the lemurs. He starts off not knowing what in the name of Mort to do, but slowly grows as a character into being someone that is prepared to put others before himself. Someone who could be trusted and relied on. Someone who could be a leader. He constantly questions himself about his capabilities, and for the longest time would take all of his insecurities about himself out through anger and rage. The best episode of the entire show, and one of the best things that DreamWorks has ever made, is about Julien wanting to be a magnificent artiste, but he doesn't have what it takes. He just doesn't have it. And shockingly enough, Mort is a phenomenal artist himself and gets all the attention, leaving Julien in the dust. So to hide his inner conflict and shame of himself, Julien banishes all art, ultimately taking away Mort's passion for a period of time before succumbing to the unrelenting depression and admittance of what he had done. And this is shown in the most brutally honest and haunting way imaginable. Season 4 episode 3 is just godlike. This behavior is all him realizing the utter jerk that he's been over the years, and seeing him even just trying to make a difference is the most heartwarming thing ever. The whole idea of the last episode in the show is that it's not meant to revolve around Julien, and instead focuses a little bit more on Clover, with Julien playing a supporting role. I bring this up because it's literally a perfect example of concluding Julien as a character in this show. He's learned to put others ahead of him, and that's exactly what this is. This show has an incredible understanding of King Julien, and they honestly make him one of my top 5 favorite characters in all of fiction. Hell, maybe even in the top 3. And it's not just All Hail King Julien as to why I love him so much. The entire franchise presents Julien extremely well. I love his introduction in the first movie and how they develop on his fun and off the hook side in the later 2 movies. I love how they look at some new interesting ideas to connect him with in Penguins, and everything about him. Everything from the comedy to the drama to the emotion to the heartbreak to the energy to the profound nature of it all. Everything is above perfect in All Hail King Julien. He is the perfect blend of hilarious and deep all in one, and just how could you not love this guy? I could honestly ramble on for another 20 minutes about why King Julien soars. What an incredible character. He made my childhood, and he will forever be in my heart. So that is why King Julien is very important to me, but mostly why he's very, very good and stuff. This video is draining me. I can't wait to get to the big, massive Mort review I'll do at some point in the future. Yeah! Anyways, I still wanted to dedicate a short miniature segment at the end of this video, which is now, by the way, if you couldn't tell, like now, right now, where I would just say thanks to you all. Thank you guys so much for watching my content and actually enjoying it enough to the point where you've decided to subscribe to me. I always thought that 10k would just be something of a dream. I mean, I never thought that so many people would care, but I'm so happy that I have people that like what I make, and that's really encouraging for me. It gives me a lot more motivation to make more for you guys. We've come a long way from making awfully edited, awfully written, and awfully voiced theory videos to making slightly less awful videos. Just slightly. I want to create what you guys want me to, so seriously, if you have any ideas for topics, or even just questions that you would like to know about me or anything in general, please feel free to comment on these videos. It would be really nice to get to know my subscribers a little better. For now though, thanks guys. You really actually mean a lot to me. I guess what I'm trying to say though is that King Julien is a Chad. Go watch All Hail King Julien. Bye!